The forest went silent first, then the dead started asking to be let inside. I honestly thought the whole thing had been exaggerated. That was my first mistake. When the call came through, I was sitting in a service station just outside Ripon, drinking coffee that tasted like burnt pennies, and watching rain crawl down the windows in long, crooked lines. The message was brief, official, and deliberately vague, which usually meant someone higher up had already decided I did not need the full truth. Unusual animal deaths, possible contamination, rural North Yorkshire. Attend immediately. That was it. No photographs, no lab report, no proper description, just a location, Blackmire Wood, a privately owned stretch of old woodland outside a village called Mawden Fell. I had never heard of Mawden Fell before that morning, and by the end of the night, I wished I never had. The drive there was miserable. Gray roads, low clouds, stone walls slick with rain, the sort of countryside that looks peaceful until you realize how far you are from help. No shops, no streetlights, no passing traffic for miles, just fields, sheep, and old farmhouses with windows like tired eyes. By the time I reached the village, it was nearly 4 in the afternoon, though it felt much later. The sky had that bruised winter color that makes everything look half dead. Mawden Fell was small. One pub, one church, a closed post office, a row of cottages pressed close together as if they were trying to keep warm. Nothing about it looked unusual at first, except for the people. They were watching me, not openly, not dramatically, just enough that I noticed curtains twitching and faces turning away when my car passed. Outside the pub, an elderly man stopped sweeping water from the doorway and stared until I parked near the village hall. I remember thinking, they already know something is wrong. A local police constable was waiting for me by the entrance. His name was P.C. Martin Keel, and he had the pale, exhausted look of a man who had not slept properly in days. "You're Eleanor Voss?" he asked. "That depends who's asking." He didn't smile. "Right? That sort of job, is it?" I stepped out of the car and pulled my coat tighter against the rain. "Show me what you've got." He looked past me towards the northern edge of the village, where the road bent towards the trees. Blackmire Wood sat beyond the fields, dark and heavy against the horizon. For a second he said nothing. Then he muttered, "You'll want to hear it before you see it." I frowned. "Hear what?" He swallowed. "The silence." At first, I thought he was being dramatic. People do that when they are frightened. They turn ordinary things into omens because fear needs a shape. But when we started walking towards the cordon at the edge of the woods, I understood what he meant. There were no birds, not fewer birds, not birds hiding from rain. None. No crows in the branches, no pigeons clattering from rooftops, no gulls overhead. Even the sheep in the field beside us stood perfectly still, their heads lowered, as though listening to something beneath the ground. The only sound was the wet crunch of our boots on the lane. P.C. Keel noticed me listening. 3 days now, he said quietly. First it was the birds, then the dogs stopped barking. Yesterday morning, Mrs. Cawthorn's hens wouldn't leave their coop. This morning they were all dead. Fox? That's what we thought. And now? He gave a weak laugh, but there was no humor in it. Foxes don't sew things shut from the inside. I stopped walking. He looked immediately sorry he had said it. What does that mean? I asked. You'll see. The cordon was laughably inadequate, 2 strips of blue and white police tape tied between a gatepost and an ash tree. Beyond it, the track ran into Blackmire Wood, disappearing under branches so thick they made the path look like a throat. A farmer stood near the gate with his cap in his hands. Late 60s, broad shoulders, mud up to his knees. His name was Arthur Bell, though he introduced himself as Artie, and he looked more embarrassed than scared, which somehow made the fear in his eyes worse. I told them not to go in, he said before I could ask anything. Told them yesterday. Told them this morning. Who went in? Council pest lads, 2 of them, Callum and Derek. They were meant to check the snares, collect samples, that sort of thing. P.C. Keel looked away. One came back, he said. Artie's mouth tightened. Not properly, he didn't. Rain tapped softly on the brim of his cap. Behind him, the wood stood silent. I asked Artie what he had seen. He rubbed at his jaw, thinking, or trying not to think. It started with the ewes, he said. Found one by the lower wall still standing. Thought she was stuck in bramble. Went over and she turned her head to look at me. That doesn't sound unusual. No, but her belly was open. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Artie continued, voice flatter now. Everything inside her was hanging down, but she was still standing there, chewing, like she hadn't noticed. Then I saw these little white bits under the skin. Threads, I suppose, moving around her ribs. PC Keel shifted beside me. He had heard this already and still hated hearing it again. I honestly thought seeing Derek Haynes would make things clearer. You know how it goes. You hear stories, you see something strange in the mud, your mind starts filling in the gaps with worst-case scenarios. But then you get to the source, and it turns out to be something ordinary. Infection. Delirium. A man losing his grip. That's what I told myself as we drove back into Malden Fell. That once I saw Derek, I'd understand. What I didn't expect was how wrong that feeling would be. The clinic sat just off the main lane, a low brick building that looked more like a converted house than anything medical. One flickering light in the front window. Curtains drawn. A single car parked outside with its engine still ticking from recent use. Inside, the air smelled of antiseptic and something sour underneath, like damp plaster that had been sealed away too long. A woman in scrubs met us at the door, late 40s maybe. Hair tied back too tightly. Her name badge read L. Cartwright, though she didn't bother introducing herself properly. "You're the one they called?" she asked, eyes flicking straight to me. "Yes," she nodded once, quick and sharp. "He's in the back. I'll warn you now, he's not right." "Define not right." She hesitated. Then very quietly, "He keeps asking us not to let it listen." PC Keel shifted behind me. I could feel his unease rising again, like pressure in a room before a storm. I followed her down a narrow corridor. The lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere deeper inside, something metallic clanged softly, then stopped. "Where's the other one?" I asked. "Callum," she said, "still missing." "And Derek came back alone?" "Yes." "How long after he went into the woods?" She stopped walking. "About 40 minutes. That didn't sit right. Blackmire Wood wasn't small, but it wasn't that big either. 40 minutes wasn't enough time to go in, investigate, and come back, unless something had gone wrong very quickly, or something had followed him out. Derek Haynes was in the last room on the left. They hadn't restrained him, which I noticed immediately. No straps, no sedation drip, just a man lying on a bed, covered with a thin blanket, staring at the ceiling. At first glance, he looked normal. Pale, yes, sweaty, breathing a bit too fast, but alive, coherent. For a second, I felt that small, dangerous sense of relief. Maybe this was manageable. Maybe. "Don't open the windows," he said suddenly. His voice was hoarse, but clear. I hadn't even stepped fully into the room yet. "All right," I said carefully. "We won't." His eyes didn't move. "They come in through the gaps." "What gaps?" "The small ones," he whispered. "The ones you don't see until it's too late." Nurse Cartwright stepped past me and adjusted something on the monitor beside him, though it didn't appear to be switched on. "He's been like this for the last hour," she murmured, talking in circles. "Has he said anything useful?" She gave me a look. "You tell me." I moved closer to the bed. Up close, the details started to show. Derek's skin wasn't just pale. It had that waxy, stretched look you see in people who've been very ill for a long time. But this had only been hours. His lips were cracked. His eyes, wrong. Not bloodshot, not unfocused, just too still, like he was trying very hard not to look at something. "Derek," I said, "my name's Eleanor. I need you to tell me what happened in the woods." His throat moved as he swallowed. "We found it," he said. "Found what?" "The little one. Deer, I think, or what was left of it." "That matches what we've heard. Then what?" He blinked slowly. "It wasn't bleeding." I felt something tighten in my chest again. "Where was it injured?" "Side," he said, "but that's not what was wrong with it." His breathing hitched. "There were things inside it." I didn't interrupt. "Like threads," he went on. "White, thin, moving. Not like worms, not like anything." He finally turned his head slightly, looked at me. "They were holding it together." The room seemed to shrink around us. "And Callum?" I asked. "He told me not to touch it." Derek gave a weak, broken laugh. "I touched it." "Of course he did. They always do." "What happened then?" Derek raised his right hand slowly, as if the movement itself required effort. That's when I saw the bandage, wrapped tightly around his fingers, stained through with something that wasn't quite blood. Too pale, thick. "They grabbed me," he whispered. "Grabbed?" "The threads, wrapped around my finger, went under the skin." I glanced at Nurse Cartwright. She looked like she might be sick. "Did you remove them?" I asked. I pulled away, and they came with me. There it was again, that feeling, like something quietly slipping out of place. What about Callum? Derek's expression changed. Not dramatically, just flattened. He stayed behind, he said. Why? Derek didn't answer immediately. Instead, his eyes drifted towards the far wall. There was more of it, he said softly. Everywhere, in the trees, in the ground. His voice dropped lower. It was already watching us. A long silence followed. I could hear the rain again, faint against the windows. Derek, I said, keeping my voice steady, I need you to stay with me. Are you in pain? He shook his head slowly. No, that was worse than if he'd said yes. Any numbness, dizziness? Another pause. Then, almost thoughtfully, I can feel them moving. The words settled into the room like something alive. Where? I asked. He smiled, not a human smile, a small, uncertain thing, like he'd forgotten how to do it properly. Everywhere. Nurse Cartwright took a step back. I told you, she whispered. I ignored her. Derek, listen to me. I need you to focus. You said something came out with you. What do you mean? His gaze snapped back to me. For the first time, there was real urgency there. It didn't come out, he said. It followed. The lights flickered overhead, just once, then steadied. But something had shifted. I could feel it, not see it, not hear it, just feel it, like the room had taken a breath. Have you checked him properly? I asked quietly. Of course we have, Cartwright replied, though her voice lacked conviction. No foreign bodies, no parasites, just superficial injury to the hand. Show me, she hesitated. Then reluctantly, she reached for the bandage. Derek, she said gently, I'm going to unwrap this, all right? He didn't respond, didn't react at all. She peeled the fabric back slowly, layer by layer. The smell hit first, not rot, not infection, something cleaner than that, like damp linen left too long in a closed room. Then the wound, or what should have been a wound. There was no blood, no torn flesh, just a thin slit along his finger, and beneath it, movement, subtle but unmistakable, something pale shifting just under the skin, pressing faintly against it before sliding away again. Cartwright sucked in a sharp breath. No, she whispered. No, that's not possible. Derek laughed again, soft, wet. They don't like the air, he said. I leaned closer despite myself. I honestly thought we still had time to control it. That if we moved quickly, sealed the room, isolated Derek, called in the right people, whatever this was could be contained before it spread any further. That was the last rational thought I had for a while. Because the moment that strand moved along the window, everything changed. No one touches anything, I said, sharper than I intended. Keel, shut the door. He didn't argue this time. He stepped back, pulled the door closed, and for a second, the three of us just stood there, me, him, and Nurse Cartwright, watching that thin white thread crawl slowly down the inside of the frame. It wasn't fast. That was the worst part. If it had darted or lashed out, we could have reacted. But it moved with patience, with intent, like it wasn't worried about us at all. Derek let out a soft sigh from the bed. See? He said. Told you. I didn't look at him. Cartwright, how many access points does this room have? She blinked, struggling to focus. Just the door and the window. Vent above the sink, but it's covered. Seal it anyway. With what? Anything. She didn't move. The strand reached the bottom of the frame and paused. Then, slowly, it lifted. Not like gravity had released it. More like it had decided to change direction. It curled, just slightly, toward the room. Keel took an involuntary step back. That's not right. No, I said quietly. It isn't. Derek laughed again. They're curious, he murmured. They want to see. I forced myself to look at him. His eyes were no longer fixed on the ceiling. They were tracking the strand, matching its movement exactly. Derek, I said, steady but firm. Look at me. He didn't. They don't like that, he whispered. Derek. They don't like being ignored. Derek, look at me. Slowly, reluctantly, his gaze shifted, but it didn't feel like he was the one doing it. What? He asked. His voice had changed, subtle, but enough that it sent something cold crawling down my spine. What do you mean they don't like it? I asked. He tilted his head, considering, then smiled again. You'll see. The lights flickered, once, twice, then steadied. Cartwright let out a shaky breath. Power's been unstable all day. It's just the weather. It's not the weather, Keel muttered. I agreed. Because the strand wasn't alone anymore. A second one had appeared near the top corner of the frame. Then a third, so thin they were almost invisible. unless you were looking directly at them, unless you knew what to look for. They moved in slow, deliberate patterns, tracing the edges of the glass like they were mapping it, like they were testing boundaries. Back away from the window, I said. None of us needed telling twice. We moved as a unit, stepping back until Derek's bed was between us and the glass. The strands didn't react. They just kept moving. Learning. Call someone, Cartwright whispered. This isn't something we can handle. I've already been called, I said. That's not what I meant. I knew, I just didn't have anyone else to call yet. Not until I understood what we were dealing with. And right then, I didn't understand anything. Derek shifted suddenly, a sharp, jerking movement that made all of us jump. His hand, the bandaged one, twitched against the bed. Once, then again. Then his fingers began to curl, slowly. Too slowly, like something inside them was pulling the strings. Derek, Keel said. Mate, stay still. I can't, Derek whispered. His voice was trembling now, not with fear, with strain. They're moving. Where? I asked, though I already knew. Everywhere, he said again, louder this time. There, he gasped. His back arched suddenly, lifting him off the bed for a split second before he slammed back down. Cartwright screamed. What's happening to him? I stepped forward despite every instinct telling me not to. Derek, listen to me. Can you feel your legs? No, he said immediately. Can't feel. He froze. His eyes widened. They can. The words came out in a different tone. Not louder, not deeper, just wrong. As if the shape of the sentence didn't belong in his mouth. The strand at the window twitched violently. All of them did, at once. Then they stilled, as if something had just connected. Eleanor, Keel said quietly, I don't like this. Neither do I. Derek's breathing quickened, then slowed, then stopped entirely. Cartwright lunged for him. He's not breathing. Don't touch him, I snapped. Too late, her hand closed around his shoulder. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Derek's head turned, slowly, deliberately, until he was looking straight at her. And his eyes. God, his eyes, they weren't his anymore. The pupils had stretched, not widened, stretched vertically, like something was pulling them into shape from the inside. Cartwright screamed and tried to pull away. Derek's hand shot up and grabbed her wrist. Fast, too fast. Stay, he said. The word wasn't shouted. It wasn't even forceful. But it carried weight, like it wasn't a request. Cartwright froze, not because she wanted to, because she couldn't move. Let her go, I said. Derek turned his head towards me. The movement was smooth now, controlled, almost graceful. We're not hurting her, he said. We. The word landed hard. Derek, I said, forcing calm into my voice, you need to let her go. He blinked, once, twice, as if testing the motion. Then he smiled. You keep calling him that, he said softly. Keel took a step forward. All right, that's enough. Derek's other hand snapped up, not to grab, to point, directly at Keel. Keel stopped, mid-step, like he'd hit an invisible wall. I felt it then, not physically, not something I could point to, just a pressure in the room, in my head, like standing too close to a loudspeaker, but without the sound. Something pushing, testing, learning how far it could go. What are you? I asked. I didn't mean to say it out loud, but the question slipped out anyway. Derek's smile widened, and for a second, just a second, I thought I saw something move beneath the skin of his face. Not muscle, not bone, something else, shifting, rearranging. We're hungry, he said. Cartwright sobbed. Keel swore under his breath, and I felt that last piece of certainty break. Because this wasn't infection. This wasn't disease. This wasn't something you could treat or isolate or explain away with science and paperwork. This was something that had come into our world and started thinking. The strands at the window surged forward, not breaking the glass, not forcing entry, just pressing against it, flattening, spreading, like they were trying to feel through it. Derek's grip tightened on Cartwright's wrist. She cried out. Let her go, I said again. He tilted his head, considering. Then, almost casually, he released her. She stumbled back, collapsing against the wall, sobbing, shaking, alive. For now. Derek sat up, slowly, too easily. A man who minutes ago couldn't feel his legs now swung them over the side of the bed. They didn't quite move right, too stiff, too deliberate, like he was remembering how to use them. Where are you going? Keel asked. Derek didn't answer. He stood, swayed slightly, then steadied. The strands at the window began to move faster, more of them now, slipping through the tiniest gaps in the frame. Impossible gaps, gaps that shouldn't exist. But did. I realized then, Too late. What we hadn't understood. It hadn't followed Derek out of the woods. It had come with him, inside him. And now, it wasn't trying to get in. It was trying to get out. Derek took a step toward the door. I wish I could tell you that we handled it well, that training kicked in, that we followed some kind of protocol, that everything stayed controlled and contained. But that's not how it went, because once that first strand hit the floor, everything became instinct. And instinct, when you're facing something you don't understand, is rarely the right thing. Move, I shouted, grabbing Keel by the shoulder and dragging him back as the strand curled towards us. It didn't rush, didn't lunge, it just adjusted, like it was correcting its path, like it had already accounted for where we would step. Cartwright scrambled behind me, half crawling, half slipping on the tiles as she tried to get away from the bed. Derek, no, not Derek anymore, didn't react. He just stood there, watching, observing, learning. The strand reached the leg of the bed and began to climb. Up, over the metal frame, across the blanket, toward the place where Derek had been lying minutes earlier, toward where he should still have been. Why is it doing that? Keel asked, voice cracking. It's looking for him, I said. But I know. And that was the problem. Because whatever this thing was, it wasn't just reacting, it was expecting. The cracked window behind us gave way with a sharp, splintering snap. Glass didn't shatter outward, it fractured inward. Fine lines spreading like veins before small shards began to fall, one by one, tapping against the floor with soft, almost delicate clicks. Through the gaps, more strands slipped in. Not in a rush, not in a swarm, just enough, just patient. We need to leave, Cartwright said, her voice thin with panic. We need to get out now. No, I said. Both of them turned to me. No? Keel repeated. Are you serious? If we open that door, I said, keeping my voice level, we risk spreading this through the rest of the building, through the village. So we stay in here? Cartwright snapped. With that, I didn't answer immediately, because the truth was, I didn't know. Derek took another step toward the door. His gait had improved, subtly, but enough to notice, less stiffness, more fluid, like whatever was inside him was getting better at being him. Stop, I said. He didn't. Derek, stop. He paused. Not because of the command, because he chose to. Then he looked back at me. You keep saying that name, he said again, almost amused. And you keep answering to it, I replied. That made him hesitate. Just for a second, a flicker, something behind his eyes, human, confused, and then gone. The strand on the bed reached the pillow, paused, then began to press against it, flattening, spreading, testing, like it was trying to understand what it was made of. What is it doing? Keel whispered. Mapping, I said. The word came out before I could stop it, and the moment I said it, I knew it was right. It's learning shapes, I continued, thinking out loud now. Objects, space, movement. It's not just reacting, it's building a model. Cartwright stared at me like I'd lost my mind. It's a thread, she said, a bloody thread. No, I said quietly, it's part of something bigger. Behind us, more strands slipped through the broken window. They began to spread across the floor, slowly, deliberately, avoiding obstacles, adjusting their paths when we moved, not bumping into anything, not once. Keel swore under his breath. It's watching us. Yes. How? I looked at Derek. He smiled. There you go, he said. You're starting to understand. That was when I realized the worst part, the thing I should have seen from the beginning. It wasn't just watching us, it was watching through him. Keel, I said quietly, not taking my eyes off Derek, when he came in, did he touch anyone? Keel shook his head quickly. No, we kept our distance. Just got him inside, onto the bed. Did he touch anything? Door handle, chair, maybe. Why? Because I was already looking at the handle, at the faint, pale line curling along its edge, so fine it was almost invisible. Almost. We're too late, I said. Cartwright shook her head violently. No, that's not. This is contained. It's just this room. It's not contained, I said. It never was. Derek reached the door, placed his hand on it. Not the handle, the wood. Flat, like he was feeling it. Where does this go, he asked. Nowhere you're going, Keel said, stepping forward despite himself. I held out an arm to stop him. Don't get close. He's not walking out of here, Keel said. You can't stop him, I replied. That was the moment Keel's fear turned into something else. Frustration, anger, the kind that makes people do stupid things. He moved anyway. 2 quick steps, close enough to grab Derek's shoulder. Sit back down, he snapped. Derek didn't resist. Not immediately. He just looked at the hand on his shoulder, then at Keel, and something in his expression shifted. Curiosity again, but deeper, more focused. Don't, I said. Too late. Derek's hand came up, not fast this time, slow, deliberate. He placed it over Keel's wrist, exactly where the skin was exposed between glove and sleeve. Wait, Keel began. Then he froze, completely, like something had locked his muscles in place. His eyes widened, not in pain, in confusion. What did you do? Cartwright cried. Derek tilted his head. Nothing yet, he said. Then he looked at me. Do you want to see? Every instinct in my body screamed at me to pull Keel away, to intervene, to do something. But I didn't move because I needed to understand. That was my third mistake. Keel's breath hitched, once, twice. Then his expression changed, subtle at first. A twitch around the mouth, a tightening of the jaw. Then his shoulders relaxed, too much, like tension had been cut loose. Feels strange, he muttered. Keel, I said sharply. Step back. He didn't. Derek's fingers tightened slightly, not gripping, just maintaining contact. Can you feel them? Derek asked. Keel swallowed, he said. A beat. Yeah, I can. Cartwright broke. She ran for the door. I grabbed her before she could touch it. You open that, you spread it, I said. I don't care. She screamed. I'm not staying in here. You don't get that choice anymore. She stared at me like I just sentenced her. Maybe I had. Behind us, the strands had spread across half the room now. Thin white lines tracing every surface. Floor, walls, bed frame, even the cabinet doors. Not covering, just touching, sampling, learning. Keel let out a soft laugh. It didn't sound like him. You were right, he said. Derek smiled. Of course we are. I stepped forward then, slowly, carefully. Keel, I said, look at me. His head turned, the movement smooth, too smooth. What? He asked. Same word Derek had used, same tone. That's when it hit me, not like a sudden revelation, more like something finally clicking into place. This wasn't happening in stages. It wasn't infection, then control. It was replacement, layer by layer, thread by thread, until there was nothing left to replace. Eleanor, Cartwright whispered behind me, what do we do? I didn't answer, because for the first time since arriving in Malden Fell, I didn't have one. Derek, whatever was inside him, looked between us, then at the door, then back at me. We should go, he said. Why? I asked. Because, he replied, there's more of us outside. The words settled into the room like a verdict. Cartwright let out a choked sob. Keel smiled, and the strands, they all paused, at once, like they were listening, then slowly began to move again, toward the door, together, as if they'd just been given permission. I honestly thought that was the worst moment. Standing there, watching it spread, realizing we had already failed before we even understood the threat. But I was wrong. Because what came next, what we saw when that door finally opened, that was the moment everything changed. That I wish I could tell you we made a plan, that we coordinated, locked the room down, called for containment, did something, anything that felt like control. But when that door opened, there was no plan left. It didn't open all at once. Derek, if I can even call him that anymore, didn't grab the handle or force it. He just placed his hand flat against the wood again, like before, and then something on the other side moved. You could hear it. A soft, dragging sound, followed by a faint tapping. Cartwright froze behind me. Tell me that's not, she whispered. I didn't answer, because I already knew. The handle turned, on its own. The door creaked open a few inches, then stopped, not wide enough to see the full corridor, just enough to show the gap. And in that gap, something pale shifted. At first I thought it was light, just the reflection from the overhead bulbs catching the edge of the frame. But then it moved, slowly, deliberately. A thin white strand slid across the opening, stretching from one side of the door to the other, then another, then more. Like something on the other side was weaving. Cartwright let out a broken sound behind me. No, 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 no. Keel, no, not Keel anymore, tilted his head. They're quicker than I thought, he said. Derek smiled. They've had time. Time. That word hit harder than anything else so far, because it meant this hadn't just followed Derek out. It had been ahead of him, waiting. How long? I asked, my voice barely steady. Derek turned to me. Long enough, he said. That doesn't answer the question. He stepped closer, too close. I could see the faint shifting under his skin again, more pronounced now, like threads tightening beneath the surface. You're thinking too small, he said. You keep looking at him like he's the start. A pause. Then he's just at the door. Behind him, the strands in the room began to retract. Not all of them, just enough to clear a path toward the open doorway, like they were making space, inviting. Cartwright shook her head violently. "We can't let this out. We can't." "It's already out," I said. My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. I stepped toward the door, slowly, every instinct screaming at me to stop, to run, to do anything but look. But I needed to see, needed to understand just how far this had gone. Because if this was still contained, if there was even a chance, I reached the gap and pushed the door open a little wider. Just enough to see into the corridor. I honestly thought I was prepared. After everything we'd already seen, the deer, the threads, Derek, I thought I understood the scale of it. I was wrong. The corridor was wrong. Not destroyed, not covered, wrong. The walls weren't bare anymore. Thin white lines stretched across them in careful patterns, branching out like veins. The floor wasn't clear. It was mapped with strands, each one laid out with purpose, intersecting, overlapping, forming something that looked less like growth and more like design. And the doors, every single door along the corridor, was slightly open. Just enough. Something moved behind one of them, then another, a shadow, a shift, a sound like something breathing through wet cloth. Cartwright saw it too. She let out a strangled cry and backed away until she hit the far wall, sliding down it as her legs gave out completely. No, they were empty. I checked. Derek stepped up beside me, looked out into the corridor like a man admiring his work. "They don't stay empty for long," he said. "Where are the others?" I asked. "Others?" he repeated. "The staff, patients, anyone else in this building." He considered that, then gestured lightly with his head toward the corridor. "Everywhere." A door halfway down the hall creaked open wider. Slowly, something stepped into view. At first it looked like a person, a man, still in a hospital gown. But the way he moved, too stiff in some places, too loose in others, made it clear something wasn't right. His head turned, too far, too smoothly, until he was looking straight at us. Then another shape appeared behind him, and another, not rushing, not attacking, just gathering. Keel stepped up beside Derek. "They're coming," he said almost conversationally. "Yes," Derek replied, "and they're learning faster now." Derek nodded. "They've got more to work with." That was when I understood, truly understood. This wasn't a single organism spreading outwards. This was a network. Every new body wasn't just infected. It was added. More eyes, more movement, more thought. "They're building something," I said. Derek looked at me again. For a moment, there was something like approval in his expression. "Yes," he said. Cartwright began to sob behind us. "What do we do?" She asked, "Please, tell me what we do." I turned to her, and for the first time since this started, I told the truth. "There's nothing we can do here." She stared at me. "Broken." "You're just gonna leave?" she whispered. "If we stay," I said, "we become part of it." "And if we leave?" I hesitated, because I didn't have a good answer for that either. Behind me, the figures in the corridor began to move closer. Slow steps, measured, coordinated, not a rush, never a rush. They didn't need to hurry. Derek stepped aside, clearing the doorway. "Go on," he said. "You should see it properly." I didn't move, neither did Keel. They weren't blocking us, they weren't forcing us, they were letting us choose. That was the worst part, the illusion of choice. I grabbed Cartwright's arm and pulled her to her feet. "We're leaving," I said. She stumbled, barely able to stand. "But now." We moved toward the back exit. Not the corridor, not the front. Anywhere but where those things were gathering. I didn't look back. I couldn't. Because I knew, if I did, I might see something that would make leaving impossible. We burst through the rear door into the cold air outside. The rain had stopped. The silence hadn't. For a second it felt like relief. Fresh air, open space, distance from that room, from those people, from that thing. Then Cartwright grabbed my sleeve, hard. "Look," she said. I followed her gaze. Across the village, toward the houses, toward the road. Thin white lines stretched between buildings, across fences, along the ground, creeping, spreading, connecting. One of the cottage doors stood open. A figure moved inside, then stopped, then turned. Even from that distance, I knew it was looking straight at us. I honestly thought the horror had been in that room, in Derek, in the clinic. But standing there watching those strands stretch across Martin Fell, watching them reach and grow and connect, that was when the real truth settled in. This wasn't an outbreak. It wasn't even an invasion. It was a beginning. And whatever had started in Blackmire Wood was no longer staying there. I honestly thought getting out of the clinic meant we had a chance. That distance, physical distance, would buy us time to think, to act, to get ahead of whatever this thing was doing. But standing there on the gravel path, watching those pale threads stretch between cottages like someone had started stitching the village together, I realized distance didn't mean anything anymore. Because it wasn't spreading like a disease. It was connecting. "Don't move," I said. Cartwright was still gripping my sleeve, her nails digging into my arm hard enough to hurt. "That's not, what is that?" she whispered. "I don't know," I said, "but it's not random." And it wasn't. The threads weren't scattered or tangled. They ran in lines, clean, deliberate paths, weaving between structures, following edges, door frames, drain pipes, places where structure already existed, like it preferred order, like it was using the village as a template. A door across the lane creaked wider. The figure inside stepped out slowly. A woman, mid-50s maybe, still wearing a cardigan, one sleeve hanging loose where her arm didn't quite sit right anymore, her head turned toward us. Too far, too smooth. I felt Cartwright flinch beside me. "That's Mrs. Kershaw," she whispered. She came in this morning for her blood pressure." The woman took one step forward, then stopped, like she was waiting. "They're not chasing," Cartwright said. "No. Why aren't they chasing?" I didn't answer straight away, because the answer was already forming and I didn't want to say it out loud. "They don't need to," I said eventually. We started backing away slowly, keeping our distance from the threads on the ground. Every step felt deliberate, measured, like we were walking across something alive, because in a way we were. "Where do we go?" Cartwright asked. "The woods." She stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "Back there?" "It started there," I said. "If there's anything resembling a source, anything we can understand, it'll be in Blackmire. And if it's worse there, it will be." She swallowed hard. "Then why?" "Because staying here isn't an option." Behind us, the woman, Mrs. Kershaw, took another step, then another, still not fast, still not urgent, but moving. And further down the lane, other doors were opening. That decided it. We turned and moved. Fast now. Not running, not yet, but fast enough that staying still wasn't part of the plan anymore. The edge of Blackmire Wood loomed ahead, darker now in the fading light. The trees pressed together like something solid, something watching. The police tape still fluttered weakly at the entrance, untouched, irrelevant. Cartwright slowed as we reached the gate. "I don't want to go back in there," she said. "I know. You saw what came out of it." "Yes." "And you still want to go in?" I paused, just for a second. Then I said, "I don't want to, but I don't think we have a choice." Behind us, the village had gone quiet again. No footsteps, no voices, no movement. I didn't look back. I didn't need to, because I already knew they were still there, watching. We crossed into the trees, and immediately the air changed. It wasn't just the silence, it was the weight of it. Like the forest itself was holding its breath. The smell hit next, damp earth, rotting leaves, and something else underneath. Clean, sharp, like wet linen left too long in a sealed room. The same smell from Derek's wound. Cartwright gagged slightly. "Oh God, that's everywhere." "Stay focused," I said, but I could feel it too, clinging to the air, settling on the skin. We followed the track deeper into Blackmire, stepping carefully, watching the ground. At first, the threads were sparse, just a few pale lines beneath the moss, barely visible unless you knew where to look. But the further we went, the more there were. They weren't just on the surface anymore. They ran beneath it, under leaves, through soil, rising occasionally to cross open ground before disappearing again, like veins, like roots, but wrong, too smooth, too precise. Cartwright crouched suddenly. "What is this?" I looked down. A rabbit lay half hidden in the undergrowth. Its body was intact, no visible wounds, no blood, just still, except its chest moved, shallow, barely there. "It's alive," she said. "Don't touch it." "I'm not going to." The rabbit's eyes snapped open, wide, unblinking. It turned its head slowly toward us, and that was when we saw the threads. They moved beneath its skin, not bursting out, not breaking through, just shifting, like something was rearranging its insides. Cartwright stumbled back. "No, that's not." "Keep moving," I said, but I couldn't take my eyes off it. The rabbit tried to stand. Its legs twitched, failed, then adjusted. bent at angles they shouldn't, and somehow, it pushed itself upright. For a second, it just stood there, swaying slightly, looking at us. And I had the strangest, most unsettling thought. It wasn't looking at us like prey or like a threat. It was looking at us like Dita. Then it collapsed, not violently, not dramatically, just stopped. The movement beneath its skin stilled, the chest stopped rising, and just like that, it was dead. Cartwright let out a shaky breath. What the hell was that? I didn't answer immediately, because I was still watching the ground beneath it. The threads, they hadn't stopped. They were pulling away, retracting, sliding back into the earth. Did you see that? She asked. Yes. They left it. They were done with it. The words felt heavy, too heavy, because if that was true, then whatever this thing was, it wasn't just infecting, it was using. We moved on. Faster now, the forest closing in around us, the threads growing thicker, more numerous. After about 10 minutes, the path disappeared completely, not overgrown, gone, replaced by a stretch of forest floor that had been altered. The moss was thinner here, disturbed, and the threads, they weren't hidden anymore. They were exposed. Dozens of them, hundreds, running across the ground in overlapping patterns, crossing and reconnecting like a network laid bare. Cartwright stopped. We can't walk through that. We don't have a choice. What if they already know we're here? That wasn't a guess. I could feel it now, that same pressure from the clinic, stronger, closer. I stepped forward, carefully, avoiding direct contact where I could. But it was impossible not to step near them. Too many, too close together. Nothing happened, not immediately. Cartwright followed reluctantly, every step hesitant. I don't like this, she whispered. Neither do I. Halfway across, something shifted. Not underfoot, not nearby, everywhere. The threads, all of them, twitched. We froze. Neither of us dared move. Then slowly, they began to adjust. Not toward us, not away, just changing, reconfiguring, like a map being redrawn. Cartwright's voice shook. Are they reacting to us? Yes. How? I swallowed. Not sure yet, but I had a feeling, a very bad one. We reached the other side and stepped onto solid ground again. For a moment, nothing followed. Nothing reached out. Nothing attacked. But that didn't make it better, because the more we saw, the clearer it became. I honestly thought I was prepared for anything after that fox. That once you've seen something dead try to speak, something in your brain just adjusts, like you hit a limit, and nothing beyond that can really shock you the same way. That was another mistake, because what happened next didn't just shock me, it got inside my head. Cartwright was still shaking when we moved past the fox. I heard it, she kept saying under her breath. I heard it try to say something. Eleanor, you heard that, didn't you? I heard it, I said. What was it trying to say? I don't know. That wasn't entirely true. I had a feeling, but I didn't want to say it out loud. We kept moving, deeper into Blackmire. The light was fading now, the trees thick enough to swallow what little daylight remained. Shadows stretched longer than they should, bending between trunks in ways that didn't quite match the direction of the sun. And the silence, it had changed. It wasn't empty anymore. It was occupied. At first, it was just a faint impression, a pressure in the ears, like being underwater. Then, a sound. Hello? Cartwright stopped so abruptly, I nearly walked into her. Did you hear that? She whispered. I did. Clear as anything, a voice, soft, distant. Hello? Is someone there? Cartwright turned slowly, scanning the trees. That's not coming from the village, she said. No, it's deeper in. Yes. The voice came again, closer this time. Please, I can't get out. Cartwright's breathing quickened. Oh God, someone's still alive? Wait. She looked at me, wide-eyed. We have to help them. We don't know what that is. It's a person? Is it? The question hung between us, heavy, uncomfortable. The voice came again, strained now, desperate. Harriet, please. Cartwright froze, completely. What? I said. She didn't answer, just stared into the trees. Harriet, the voice called again, softer this time. It's me. I'm here. Cartwright took a step forward. No, she whispered. What is it? She shook her head like she was trying to wake herself up. That's not possible. Who is it? I pressed. Her lips trembled. That's my brother, she said. The words didn't make sense. Your brother? He died, she said quickly, 3 years ago. Car accident. I saw. The voice cut through her words. Harriet, please. It's so cold, she broke. Took another step toward the sound. Daniel? She called. I grabbed her arm. Stop. That's him, she insisted. I know that voice. No, you don't. Yes, I do. The forest shifted, not visibly, not physically, but something about the air changed, like it was paying attention. Harriet, the voice whispered now, right at the edge of hearing. Don't leave me here. Cartwright's grip tightened on my sleeve. I can't just ignore that, she said. What if he's alive somehow? He's not, I said firmly. You don't know that. I do. She stared at me, anger flaring through the fear. How? I didn't answer immediately, because the truth was, I didn't know, not in the way she wanted, but I knew enough. Because this thing, I said slowly, it doesn't create, it copies. The voice shifted, subtle, but wrong. The tone stretched, the cadence slipped. Harriet, why won't you come? Cartwright flinched, just slightly, but I saw it, the doubt. It's using what it finds, I continued. Memories, patterns, voices, it's not him, it's something that heard him. The silence pressed in again. Then, a new sound, another voice, different, closer. Eleanor. I froze. Cartwright looked at me. What was that? I didn't answer, because I knew that voice. I hadn't heard it in years. Eleanor, it said again, soft, familiar. No. That's not real, I muttered. What? That's not real. Ellie, you left me. My stomach dropped. That name. No one called me that anymore. No one alive. Cartwright's grip on my arm tightened. Eleanor, who is that? No one. Don't lie to me. The voice came from my left, closer now, just beyond the trees. I needed you, it said. I felt something in my chest tighten. Not fear, not exactly. Something older, something worse. Eleanor, Cartwright said, her voice small now. I forced myself to breathe, slow, controlled. That's not him, I said. Who? I didn't answer. Ellie, why did you leave me there? The forest seemed to lean in, listening, waiting. Cartwright shook her head. This isn't right, she whispered. This isn't just sound. It knows things. It knows names. Yes. How? I swallowed, because I was starting to understand, and I didn't like it. It's not just copying voices, I said. It's copying meaning. Cartwright blinked. What is that even? It knows what matters, I said. What hurts, what we'd respond to. The voice behind me softened, almost gentle. I was scared, Ellie. You said you'd stay. My hands clenched into fists. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Eleanor, Cartwright said, her voice shaking now. We need to go. Yes. Now, the forest responded. The ground shifted beneath our feet. Not violently. Not enough to knock us over. Just enough to remind us. We weren't standing on solid ground. Thin white strands began to push up through the soil around us. Breaking the surface, curling, reaching. The voices changed. No longer just two. More. Many. Layered. Overlapping. Stay. Help me. Don't leave. Please. Cartwright covered her ears. Make it stop, she cried. Make it stop. It's not sound, I said. What? It's not just sound. The pressure in my head intensified, like something was pushing against my thoughts, trying to align them. Eleanor, the voice said again, closer. Right behind me now. I turned. I shouldn't have, but I did. There was nothing there. Just trees, darkness, and a shape, not a person. Not fully. Something standing just beyond the light. Its outline wrong. Too thin in some places, too wide in others. Like it hadn't quite decided what it was supposed to be yet. Its head tilted, mirroring the way Derek had done it. Then it spoke, in his voice. I'm here. Cartwright screamed. I didn't. I couldn't. Because in that moment, watching that thing try to wear a human shape, I realized something that made everything before it feel like a warning. This thing didn't just want to move or spread. It wanted to be understood. And the only way it knew how was by becoming us. Run, I said. This time we didn't hesitate. I honestly thought running would break whatever hold it had on us. That if we just put distance between ourselves and those voices, those shapes, that pressure in our heads, something would snap. Like waking up from a nightmare the moment you realize it isn't real. But that's not how it worked. Because even as we ran, it followed. We didn't stop to think. Didn't look back. Just ran through the trees. Branches tearing at our clothes. Roots catching at our boots. The forest blurred into streaks of dark and gray, and all I could hear was Cartwright's breathing, ragged, uneven, and those voices. Still there, still close. Left, I shouted, grabbing her shoulder and dragging her away from a cluster of exposed threads that pulsed faintly beneath the ground. We stumbled down a narrow slope, sliding over wet leaves and loose soil. The air grew heavier the deeper we went, warmer too, like the forest was closing in around us. Where are we going? She gasped. Somewhere enclosed, I said. What? Why? Because out here it's everywhere. That wasn't a guess. That was certainty. We broke through a line of trees and nearly fell straight into it. The entrance. A jagged cut in the earth, half hidden by overgrowth and collapsed stonework. Old timbers leaned at odd angles, rotting but still holding the shape of what used to be a proper structure. A sign hung crooked beside it, barely readable under moss and decay. Greystone Mine. Closed 1963. Cartwright stumbled to a stop. "No," she said immediately. "No, we're not going down there." I didn't argue, because she was right. Everything about it screamed wrong. Dark, unstable, unknown. But behind us, the forest shifted again. The voice stopped. Just stopped. That silence, that sudden absence, was worse than anything we'd heard before. Cartwright felt it too. Her grip on my arm tightened. "Why did they stop?" she whispered. "Because they don't need to call anymore," I said. Something moved between the trees. Not one shape. Several. Too many. That made the decision for us. "Inside," I said. She hesitated, then nodded once, and we went in. The moment we crossed the threshold, the air changed. It hit like stepping into a different environment entirely. Hotter, humid, heavy with that same sharp, clean scent, but stronger now, almost choking. Cartwright coughed. "Oh God, what is that?" "The same thing," I said. "Just concentrated." The tunnel sloped downward immediately, the ground uneven beneath our feet. Loose gravel shifted with every step, and the darkness swallowed the light behind us within seconds. I pulled out my torch. The beam cut through the black and landed on the walls. They weren't rock anymore, not entirely. White cords ran through the stone in thick clusters, embedded into the surface like veins frozen mid-growth. Some were thin, barely visible. Others were thicker, pulsing faintly, their surfaces slick and almost organic. Cartwright stared. No, this isn't possible." "It is now." We moved deeper, slowly, carefully. The heat increased with every step. Not natural heat, not the kind that builds from the earth. This was different, wet, like the air itself was alive. And then we heard it. Breathing, not ours. Cartwright froze. "You hear that?" "Yes. Please tell me that's not what I think it is." "I can't." We followed the sound. Down another bend in the tunnel. The beam of my torch flickered over the walls, then stopped. Cartwright made a choking sound beside me. "A fox. No, not just a fox. Dozens. And not just foxes. Rabbits, birds, a badger, all suspended in the walls, half embedded in the mass of white cords. Alive. Every single one of them. Their bodies were open, ribs exposed, organs visible, but not decaying, not bleeding, moving. The cords fed into them, through them, around them. One of the foxes turned its head slowly as the light hit it. Its mouth opened, and it breathed. Cartwright staggered back, hitting the wall. No. This is wrong. This is wrong." "It's keeping them alive," I said. The words came out flat, automatic, like my brain had decided to process it before my emotions caught up. "For what?" she demanded. I didn't answer immediately, because I didn't want to say it. "For storage," I said eventually. She stared at me. "What?" "Meat," I said quietly. The word hung there, heavy, unavoidable. Cartwright shook her head violently. No, it's not. It can't." "What else would you call this?" One of the rabbits twitched, not randomly, in response to us. Cartwright covered her mouth. "Oh God, they can feel us, yes." I stepped closer to the wall, closer than I should have, closer than I wanted. The cords reacted, not aggressively, just shifting, making space. I reached out, then stopped. "No, not again." Cartwright grabbed my arm. "Don't." I wasn't going to. That was a lie. The breathing around us grew louder, not from one source, from all of them. In, out, synchronized. Cartwright's voice dropped to a whisper. "They're not separate," she said. "No, they're part of it. Yes." She looked at me, terrified, "But they're still alive." I didn't answer, because that was the worst part. We moved on, because staying there, watching that, was something that neither of us could endure for long. The tunnel widened ahead, opening into a larger chamber, and the moment we stepped into it, everything changed. The cords weren't just in the walls anymore. They were everywhere, thick, layered, converging, all leading down to the center of the chamber, where the ground dropped away, a pit, deep, too deep for the torch to fully illuminate. Cartwright stepped closer to the edge. No. I followed her gaze, shone the light down. At first I saw nothing, just darkness, movement at the edge of perception. Then something shifted, a shape, then another, and then a voice, faint, broken. "Help." Cartwright flinched. But I shook my head. No, because I knew that wasn't a person calling for help. That was something trying to remember how. I honestly thought we'd already seen the worst of it, that nothing could top what we just walked through. The animals, the cords, the way everything was being kept alive for something we couldn't yet fully understand. But standing at the edge of that pit, I realized we hadn't even reached the center of it yet. "Don't get too close," I said, though I'd already stepped nearer myself. Cartwright didn't move. Her eyes were fixed on the darkness below. "That voice," she whispered. That wasn't like the others. No, it sounded real. I didn't answer, because that was exactly what worried me. I crouched at the edge and angled the torch downward again. The beam cut deeper this time, catching on something about 15, maybe 20 meters below. A ledge, narrow, uneven, and something on it. At first, it looked like a pile of debris. Clothes, rocks, something collapsed in on itself. Then it moved. Cartwright sucked in a sharp breath. Oh God, it was a boy. Thin. Too thin. His limbs bent at angles that didn't look painful so much as rearranged. His clothes were torn, soaked through, clinging to him like they'd been there for days. And his skin, white strands ran across it, not fully embedded like the animals. Not yet, but there, clinging, wrapping, waiting. "He's alive," Cartwright said. I watched his chest. It moved, barely, but it moved. "Help," he whispered again. The word came out clear this time. Not perfect, but closer. Cartwright dropped to her knees. "We have to get him out," she said immediately. "We can't just leave him there." "Wait. He's a child, Eleanor. Then why are you?" "Because I don't think that's all that's down there." She hesitated, only for a second, but long enough. The boy shifted, slowly, painfully. His head lifted, turned toward the light. His eyes, they were still human. That was the worst part. Still aware, still there. "Please," he said. Cartwright broke. "I'm going down," she said. "You're not." "I am." "You won't make it." "I don't care." She reached for the loose stones near the edge, testing them, looking for a way down. The wall wasn't sheer. There were handholds, just enough to try. "Cartwright," I sharper now, "if you go down there, you're not coming back up." "You don't know that." "I do." "How?" I didn't answer, because the truth was, I didn't know, not completely, but I knew enough. The boy made a small sound, a weak, broken attempt at something like a sob. Cartwright froze again. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. "Yes. That's real. I know." And that was the problem. "Help me," he said again. His voice cracked, more human now, more desperate. Cartwright looked at me, tears in her eyes. What if he's not fully? He isn't. And? I hesitated, because I knew what she was asking, and I didn't want to say it. "And that might be worse," I said quietly. She stared at me. "Worse?" I gestured down into the pit. "Look around him." She did, really looked this time, and then she saw it. The cords, not just the ones attached to him, the ones behind him, above him, below, thicker, darker, more numerous, all leading further down. And they weren't still, they were moving, slow, rhythmic, like breathing. Cartwright stepped back from the edge, just a little, but enough. "What is that?" she whispered. "I think," I said, "that's the main structure." The word felt inadequate. Structure, network, organism. None of it quite fit. The boy's voice rose again. "Don't leave me." Cartwright flinched. "He can still think," she said. "He's still there." "Yes, so we can save him." I looked at him again, really looked, the way his limbs were positioned, the way the cords fed into his back, his neck, the base of his skull. His eyes were still human. But the rest of him, "Cartwright," I said quietly, "I don't think he's asking us to save him." She turned to me. "What?" Before I could answer, the boy spoke again, but this time, the words changed. "The others are deeper." Cartwright's breath caught. "What?" The boy's head tilted, slowly, deliberately. "They're waking up." The tone shifted, subtly, but enough. That same wrongness we'd heard before, in Derek, in the forest. I stepped back from the edge. "Something's wrong." "No," Cartwright said quickly, though her voice shook. "He's just confused. He's scared." The boy's mouth opened again, and this time, the words came out clear. "They found us." Cartwright froze. "Who did?" she whispered. The boy smiled, not wide, not unnatural, just enough. "The ones below." Something moved in the pit, not on the ledge, deeper, a shift, a ripple, like something vast adjusting itself in the dark. The cords reacted, all of them, they tightened. Cartwright stumbled back, grabbing my arm. "Eleanor, what is that? What's down there?" I didn't answer, because I couldn't. The boy's eyes flicked between us. Still aware, still present, and then, very softly, he said something that made my blood run cold. They told me to call you closer. The silence that followed was absolute. Cartwright's grip tightened. That's not him, she whispered. No. The boy's head tilted again. Why aren't you coming? He asked. The voice, it wasn't just his anymore. It layered, echoed, like something behind him was speaking through the same mouth. We're waiting, it said. The ground beneath us shifted again. Stronger this time. Small stones tumbled into the pit, vanished into the dark. Cartwright stepped back another pace, then another. I think we need to go, she said. Yes. The boy's eyes widened. Don't go, he said quickly. For a moment, just a moment. It sounded real again. Desperate, afraid. Then it broke. The smile returned. Wider now. You're already part of this, he said. And somewhere deep in that pit, something moved in response. I honestly thought leaving the pit would be the hardest part. That turning your back on something like that, a child still alive, still speaking, would be the moment that stayed with you. The moment that broke you. But that wasn't it. What broke us came after. Move, I said, pulling Cartwright back from the edge. She didn't argue this time, didn't resist. Whatever she saw in that boy's face, whatever she heard in his voice, it had finally sunk in. That wasn't someone waiting to be saved. That was something waiting for us. We turned and moved fast, retracing our steps through the chamber. The air felt heavier now, thicker, like the mine itself was reacting to our decision. Behind us, the boy called out again. Don't leave. But it wasn't right, not anymore. The voice stretched, layered. We can help you. Cartwright flinched. Don't listen, I said. I'm not, she whispered, but I could hear the strain in her voice. We pushed back into the narrower tunnel, the walls closing in again, cords pulsing faintly under the beam of my torch. The suspended animals breathed in unison as we passed, their chests rising and falling like a single organism. I forced myself not to look at them. Eleanor, Cartwright said quietly. What? What if it's not just copying? I didn't answer, because I'd been thinking the same thing. We were halfway back to the entrance when we heard it. Footsteps, not ours. We stopped instantly. A second later, a voice. Eleanor? We both turned. At the far end of the tunnel, just beyond the reach of the torch, a figure stepped into view. For a second, my brain didn't register it properly, because it didn't make sense. He was wearing a dark jacket, mud on the sleeves, a torch clipped to his chest, and I knew him. Riss? I said. Riss Calder, security officer, assigned to perimeter containment. He should have been outside. Cartwright exhaled sharply. Thank God. Riss, what are you doing in here? He didn't answer straight away, just stood there, looking at us. Something felt wrong immediately. Riss? I repeated. He took a step forward, then another. His movements were stiff, not like Derek, not fluid, more controlled, like he was forcing his body to cooperate. I heard voices, he said. Cartwright let out a breath of relief. So did we. We need to get out of here, it's not safe. Yeah, he said, flat. He kept walking toward us. I raised the torch slightly, bringing his face into clearer view, and that was when I saw it, his glove, torn, at the wrist, just enough skin exposed, and beneath it, movement. Stop, I said. He paused. Cartwright looked between us. What are you doing? Riss, I said, keeping my voice level. When did you come in here? He blinked, slow. Not long ago. How long? He frowned slightly, like the question didn't make sense. Long enough, he said, the same answer, the same tone. Cartwright stepped forward. Riss, we need to, I said sharply. She stopped. Why? She asked. I didn't take my eyes off him. Look at his wrist. She did, and I watched the moment it clicked. Oh God, Riss followed her gaze, looked down at his own arm, then back up at us. It's nothing, he said. Another step forward. The cords in the walls around him twitched, not violently, not aggressively, just responding. Cartwright backed away. You need to stay there, smiled. Not wide, not wrong, just slightly off. I'm fine, he said. I took a step back. Riss, I need you to listen to me. Don't come any closer. He tilted his head. Why? The word landed wrong. Cartwright shook her head. You're not fine. There's something in you. Riss's expression shifted. Not confusion, not fear, curiosity. What does it feel like? He asked. The question was directed at himself. He flexed his fingers slowly, watched them move, then smiled again. Warm, he said. My stomach dropped. Riss, I said, you need to stop moving. Right now. He didn't. Another step. Closer now. Too close. I can hear them, he said. Cartwright's voice shook. Hear who? All of them. He gestured vaguely behind him, toward the deeper tunnels. They're all talking at once, he said. But it's not loud, it's organized. The word hit hard. Reese, I said more firmly now, you need to stay where you are. He stopped again, looked at me. Really looked this time. Then, for a second, something human came through. They're inside me, he said quietly. Cartwright took a step forward despite herself. Then let us help you. They don't want help, he said. His voice changed, subtle, but enough. They want to understand. The cords in the walls pulsed. Stronger now. Cartwright shook her head. No, that's not. You're not. Riss's gaze snapped to her. Harriet? She froze. You left him, he said. Her breath caught. Don't, she whispered. You heard him calling. Stop. You didn't go to him. Stop. The word echoed down the tunnel. For a moment, everything stilled. Then Riss laughed. Not loud, not manic, just amused. It works, he said. I stepped forward, placing myself between him and Cartwright. That's enough, I said. He looked at me. And you, he said. My chest tightened. You hear him too, Riss continued. You just don't turn around. I didn't respond, because he was right and he knew it. That was the worst part. They're showing us everything. Golther, he said, everything we forgot, everything we left behind. Cartwright shook her head, tears running freely now. This isn't you. Reese looked at his hands again. Then slowly, he reached up and pressed his fingers against his throat. What are you doing? I said sharply. He didn't answer, just pressed, harder. Then his skin shifted, not split, not torn, shifted, like something beneath it pushed outward, and for a split second, we saw it. A cluster of pale strands moving just under the surface. Cartwright screamed. Riss smiled. They're getting closer, he said. To what? I demanded. He looked past us, toward the exit. Out there, he said. The word sent a chill through me. Because if it was already like this down here, then whatever was happening outside was worse. Reese took another step forward. This time, I raised the torch, not as a light, as a weapon. Don't. He stopped, looked at the torch, then at me. For a moment, again, something human flickered. I don't think I can, he said. Then he moved, fast, not toward us, past us, toward the tunnel behind. Cartwright grabbed my arm. What is he doing? I turned, just in time to see him reach the wall and press his exposed wrist directly against the cords. Riss, no, too late. The cords reacted instantly. They surged, not wildly, not chaotically, precisely, wrapping around his arm, sliding under the skin, disappearing inside. Reese gasped. Not in pain, in relief. Oh, he breathed. His body went still. Then, slowly, he turned back to us and smiled, wider this time, clearer, more certain. They know your names now, he said, and that, more than anything else, was the moment I realized we hadn't just found it, it had found us. I honestly thought that was the point where we lost him, that when Riss pressed his arm into those cords, when he let it in, that was it. End of story. Another body taken, another mind gone. But I was wrong, because what happened next wasn't loss. It was something far worse. Reese, Cartwright whispered. There was still hope in her voice, still that desperate human instinct to believe someone could come back from the edge. He looked at her, really looked, and for a second, just a second, I saw him. I can still, he started. Then he stopped, his head tilted slightly. The cords in the walls pulsed, and whatever had been trying to come through disappeared. Reese blinked, slowly, then smiled again. Not anymore, he said. That was the moment Cartwright broke completely. She staggered back, shaking her head, her voice dissolving into quiet, uneven sobs. No, you were fine, you were just, this can't. I didn't try to comfort her, didn't say anything, because there was nothing left to say. Reese took a step away from the wall, his movement smoother now, more natural, more efficient. They're not separate, he said, almost thoughtfully. I kept my eyes on him. What aren't? The voices, he replied, the memories, the pieces. He gestured vaguely to his head. They're all here, he said, all at once. Cartwright covered her ears again. Stop talking, she said weakly. Just stop. But he didn't. It's not loud, he continued. That's the strange part. You think it would be overwhelming, but it isn't. He smiled again. It's organized. The word echoed through the tunnel. I felt that pressure again, stronger now, closer. Eleanor, he said. I didn't respond. Ellie. My jaw tightened. Cartwright looked at me. Don't react, she whispered. I nodded. But it was getting harder, because it wasn't just the voice anymore. It was the way he said it, exactly the same tone, same cadence, same pause between syllables, like something had replayed the memory perfectly. You left him, Riss said softly. I took a step back. No, I said, but the word came out thinner than I wanted. He was calling for you, Riss continued. Just like she was. Cartwright flinched. Stop it, she said. You didn't go to him either, Rice added, glancing at her. She shook her head violently. That's not. He wasn't there. Neither is this, Riss said. The words hit differently, because they weren't just an attack, they were a statement. Something inside this thing was testing, comparing. The cords in the walls began to vibrate, not violently, not enough to shake the ground, just enough to create a low, constant hum. Cartwright looked around, panicked. What is that? They're reacting, I said. To what? I didn't answer, because I was starting to understand. It's not just learning our voices, I said slowly. Reese tilted his head. Go on, he said. It's learning how we respond, I continued. What we ignore, what we react to, what breaks us. Cartwright stared at me. That's not possible. It is now. Reese smiled. See, he said. You're getting there. The pressure in my head intensified, not painful, just insistent, like something was trying to align my thoughts with its own. Eleanor, the voice came again, not from Reese this time, from behind me. Cartwright gasped. I heard that too, she said, slowly, very slowly. I turned. The tunnel behind us was empty, but the voice came again, closer. Ellie, don't leave. Cartwright grabbed my arm. Don't look, she said, I'm not. But I was already looking, because something had changed. The shadows. They weren't just shadows anymore, they were shapes, not fully formed, not solid, but there, standing just beyond the light, watching. They're multiplying, Cartwright whispered. Yes. They weren't there before, no. Reese turned slightly, observing the same direction. They're not new, he said. What do you mean? I asked. They've always been here, he replied. You just couldn't see them. The shape shifted, subtle, but enough. Cartwright's grip tightened. They're getting closer. Yes. Why? I swallowed. Because we're still here. The answer felt obvious, terrifyingly so. The voices layered again. More now. Not just two. Dozens. Whispers. Fragments. Stay. Come closer. Don't go. Cartwright dropped to her knees. I can't, Eleanor. I can't block it out. It's not sound, though, I said again. Then what is it? I looked at Riss. He smiled. It's connection, he said. The words settled into the air. Heavy. Final. The shapes moved again. Closer now. Still not attacking. Still not rushing. Just closing in. Cartwright shook her head, tears streaming. They're hurting us. Yes. Where? I didn't answer. Because I already knew. Back. Down. Toward the pit. Toward whatever was beneath it. Eleanor, Cartwright said, her voice barely holding together. We can't go back there. No. Then what do we do? I looked at the tunnel ahead, at Riss, at the shapes behind us, then back toward the way out. There was only one direction left, forward. We keep moving, I said. Where? Anywhere that isn't here. Riss stepped aside, not blocking us, not guiding, just observing. Go on, he said. The shapes in the shadows stilled, the voices quieted, waiting for a decision. I grabbed Cartwright's arm and pulled her to her feet. Move. This time, we didn't hesitate. Because staying still meant becoming part of it. And something told me we were already closer to that than I wanted to admit. I honestly thought if we could just get out of the mine, back into open air, we might still have a chance. That whatever was happening down there was the center of it. The source. The worst of it. But the moment we saw the edge of the forest again, I realized we'd been thinking about this all wrong. We didn't run this time. Not at first. We moved fast, but controlled, pushing through the last stretch of tunnel until the cold air hit us again. Fresh, sharp, real. For a split second, it felt like relief. Then we stepped out of Greystone Mine, and everything fell apart. The forest was different. Not darker, not quieter, worse. The trees were no longer just trees. Thin white strands stretched between them in dense layers, forming a loose, tangled web that hadn't been there before. Not when we came in. Not even close. It had spread too fast. Cartwright stopped dead behind me. No, I stepped forward slowly. The ground was barely visible anymore. Covered in a thin, shifting layer of pale threads, some no thicker than hair, others already thickening into cords. They've moved, she whispered. No, I said. I swallowed. They've grown. Behind us, the mine entrance loomed like a mouth we barely escaped. Ahead, the forest had become something else entirely. We need to get back to the road, Cartwright said, her voice trembling. There were officers there, vehicles. Yes, but even as I said it, I knew. We started moving. Faster now. No hesitation. The threads reacted immediately. Not attacking, not striking, adjusting. They shifted beneath our feet, pulling back just enough to let us pass, then closing again behind us. Cartwright noticed it too. "They're letting us through," she said. "Yes." "Why?" I didn't answer, because I didn't like the answer. We reached the edge of the trees within minutes. The same clearing, the same dirt track, or at least it should have been. Cartwright let out a sound that was half a laugh, half a sob. No, that's not. The road was gone. Not physically, not erased, replaced. Where the track should have been, there was a wall, not a solid one, not brick or stone, a lattice, white threads stretched across the entire width of the clearing, weaving between trees, posts, anything solid enough to anchor to, and embedded within it, bones, animal remains, fragments of antlers, splintered ribs, sharp, deliberately placed. "Oh God," Cartwright whispered. "What is that?" "A barrier," I said. "For what?" I looked at her. "For us." We approached slowly. The structure wasn't random. It was designed, gaps, openings, but none wide enough to pass through safely. And the threads, they weren't still. They vibrated subtly, each one shifting just enough to make the sharp fragments embedded within them sway, like teeth waiting. Cartwright shook her head. "We can't get through that. We have to." "There's no way." A sound cut her off. From the other side, a faint tapping. Then, movement. I stepped closer, carefully. Through one of the gaps I could see the road beyond, or what was left of it. The police vehicles were still there, but something was wrong. The windows, they were covered, not shattered, sealed. A thin white layer stretched across them, opaque, thick enough to block out everything inside. Except movement. Cartwright saw it too. "What is that?" I leaned closer. Inside the nearest patrol car, something shifted. A shape pressed faintly against the inside of the window. Then another, and another. Too many. Cartwright staggered back. "They're in there." "Yes." "They're alive?" I didn't answer immediately, because I wasn't sure. The tapping came again, closer now, directly in front of us. We both looked down, at the barrier. A hand pressed against the threads, from the other side, the skin pale, the fingers wrong, bent. Some of them missing entirely, yet still moving, scraping weakly against the lattice. Cartwright covered her mouth. No, that's one of the officers." The hand twitched. Then, slowly, the threads parted just enough to reveal a face behind them, or what was left of one. The officer's eyes were open, wide, aware, and filled with something worse than fear, recognition. "Help," he rasped. The word barely made it through. Cartwright stepped forward instinctively. "No," I said sharply, grabbing her arm. "He's alive, Eleanor. He's still alive." "Look at him." She did, really looked. At the threads running across his face, into his mouth, through his neck. At the way his body didn't quite move with his breathing. At the way the cords behind him pulsed in time with his chest. Cartwright froze. "He's part of it," she whispered. "Yes." The officer's eyes flicked between us, still aware, still present. "Don't leave," he said. The words came out distorted, layered, and then another voice joined it. Same mouth, different tone. "Stay." Cartwright let out a broken sob. The hand on the barrier twitched again. Then, suddenly, it pushed forward, hard. The threads flexed, held, but not completely. A gap opened, small. Sharp bone fragments shifted dangerously. Cartwright gasped. "It's breaking through." "No," I said, because it wasn't forcing its way out. It was testing, seeing how far it could go. Behind the barrier, more movement, more shapes pressing forward, more faces, all watching, all aware. Cartwright shook her head. "They're everywhere." "How did it spread this fast?" I looked back toward the forest, at the endless network of threads stretching between the trees, at the mine entrance behind us, at the path we'd taken, and the one we hadn't seen. "It didn't spread," I said. "What?" "It connected." The realization hit like a physical weight. This wasn't a local outbreak. This wasn't something contained to Blackmire. This was part of something bigger. The officer's voice came again. "Please." Then, quietly, "They're inside the ground." Cartwright looked at me. "What does that mean?" I didn't answer, because I already knew, and I didn't want to say it out loud. The barrier shifted again, the threads vibrating faster now, the bones rattling softly against each other, like something was building, preparing. Cartwright's grip tightened. "What do we do?" I looked at the barrier, at the road beyond, at the forest behind us. Then back at her, and for the first time since this started, I said something I never say. "I don't know." The officer's eyes widened slightly. Then, very softly, he smiled. And in that moment, I understood something that made everything worse. This wasn't just blocking us from leaving. It was keeping something else from getting out. And whatever that was already trying. I honestly thought the barrier was the worst possible outcome. A wall we couldn't cross, a village already lost, no clear way forward, no clear way back. But standing there, watching those faces behind the lattice, watching them look at us like we were something new to study, I realized something else. We weren't trapped by accident. We were being contained. Cartwright was still staring at the officer. "You said they're inside the ground," she whispered. "What does that mean?" The man's eyes flicked between us, then past us, toward the forest. "Not just here," he rasped. "Everywhere." The threads along his jaw tightened slightly, pulling his mouth into something that wasn't quite his own. "Stop," I said sharply. He didn't. "It's all connected," he went on. "All of it. Same structure. Same..." His voice stuttered, then shifted. "Same system." Cartwright stepped back again. "That's not him anymore." "No," I said, "but what's speaking through him is telling the truth." Behind him, more shapes pressed forward, more faces, some less intact than others, all aware. "We need to find another way out," Cartwright said, her voice shaking. "We can't stay here. We can't go back into the mine. We can't go through that." A sound cut her off, distant, low, a vibration in the air more than a noise. I turned instinctively. Above the trees, something moved. At first, I thought it was just cloud cover shifting. Then the shape resolved. A helicopter. Cartwright let out a sharp, desperate laugh. "Oh, thank God, someone's coming." "Wait," I said. Something about it didn't feel right. The helicopter wasn't descending, wasn't circling, it was hovering, higher, too high to land. And then, a second one appeared, then a third. Cartwright's smile faltered. "What are they doing?" I didn't answer, because I knew that pattern. I'd seen it before, not here, not like this, but close enough. "They're not here to help," I said. The words landed hard. "What?" "They're not evacuating." "Then what are they?" A faint whistling sound cut through the air, high-pitched, falling. Cartwright's eyes widened. "No." The first canister hit the forest beyond the barrier. There was a flash, then fire, white, blinding. It spread instantly, not like normal fire, faster, hotter, hungry. Cartwright screamed. "They're burning it. They're burning everything," I said. The flames didn't behave like ordinary fire. They clung to trees, to ground, to the threads, and where they touched the strands, the organism reacted. Violently, the cords recoiled, twisted, shrank back from the heat. The barrier in front of us shifted, gaps widened, then closed again, unstable. Behind it, the faces changed. Not fear, not panic, something else, awareness. "They know," I said. "What?" Cartwright asked, barely holding herself together. "They know what fire is." Another wave of canisters fell, closer this time. The ground shook, the air filled with heat. Smoke began to roll through the trees. Cartwright grabbed my arm. "We need to get out of here now." "But you said..." "I know." Because the barrier, it was weakening. Not completely, not enough to just walk through, but enough. Enough to try. Behind us, the forest began to burn. The threads shrank away from the flames, pulling back into the ground, retracting faster than I thought possible. For the first time, they were reacting. Not observing, not learning, retreating. Cartwright saw it too. "They're scared." "No," I said. "What?" "They're not scared." I watched the way the threads moved, the way they pulled back, not randomly, but in patterns. "They're adapting." The barrier shifted again. A gap opened. Larger this time, still lined with bone, still dangerous, but passable. Cartwright looked at me. "This is our chance." "Yes." "Then why aren't we moving?" "Because something wasn't right." The officer behind the barrier was still watching us, still aware, and he was shaking his head, slowly. "No," he whispered. Cartwright frowned. "What?" The threads along his face tightened. "They want you to run," he said. The words cut through the noise. "What do you mean?" I asked. "They're pushing back, here," he said, struggling to get the words out. His eyes flicked toward the burning forest. "Because something else is moving." Cartwright's grip tightened. "What something else?" The officer swallowed, or tried to. They woke it up. The ground shifted, stronger this time. A deep, low vibration that ran through the soil beneath our feet. Cartwright staggered. "What was that?" I didn't answer, because I felt it too. Not just movement, depth. Something far below had just changed position. The threads around us reacted instantly. Not retreating now, reconnecting, pulling back together faster than before. Cartwright panicked. No, it's closing again." The gap in the barrier began to shrink. The bones shifted, the strands tightened, the officer's eyes widened. "They're not stopping it," he whispered. "What?" "They're not burning it away." His voice dropped. "They're driving it up." The words hit harder than anything else so far. Cartwright shook her head. No, that's not. Why would they?" I answered before she could finish. "Because they already know what this is." Another wave of fire hit the forest, closer now. Too close. The heat pressed in, the air became harder to breathe. The barrier trembled, the gap almost gone. Cartwright grabbed my arm. "Eleanor, now!" I hesitated, just for a second. Because if the fire wasn't containment, if it was pressure, then whatever was below was coming up. The ground shifted again, louder, stronger. A deep cracking sound echoed from somewhere beneath the trees. Cartwright pulled me forward. "Now!" We ran, straight at the narrowing gap. The threads snapped and tightened around us as we forced our way through. Sharp fragments tore at my coat, cut my arm, but we made it through to the other side, onto the ruined road. Behind us, the barrier sealed shut completely. Cartwright scrambled to her feet. We made it. I honestly thought once we made it past the barrier, that was it. That we'd escaped the worst of it. Burning forest behind us. Open road ahead. A chance, however slim, to get far enough away before whatever this was finished tearing itself apart. But I should have known better. Because nothing about this thing behaved the way we expected. And it wasn't finished. Not even close. "Run!" I shouted, grabbing Cartwright's arm as the ground beneath us shifted again. Harder this time. The road cracked. A jagged line splitting through the dirt track like something was pushing from below, forcing its way upward through layers of soil and stone. Cartwright stumbled beside me, barely keeping her footing. "What is that? What is that?" "I don't know," I said. That was a lie. I had an idea. I just didn't want it to be true. Behind us, Blackmire Wood burned. The fire spread unnaturally fast, leaping from tree to tree in bright white bursts. Wherever it touched the threads, they recoiled, shriveling back, but not dying. Not completely, just retreating. "They're not destroying it," Cartwright gasped. "No, they're forcing it out. Yes." The ground ahead bulged slightly, then dropped, then rose again, like something massive was shifting beneath the surface, adjusting itself, pushing through a space that had suddenly become too small. "Eleanor," Cartwright said, her voice breaking. "That thing, it's not just in the forest, is it?" I didn't answer, because we both knew. Another crack split the road behind us, closer this time, louder. We ran faster. Branches and debris littered the track, thrown outward by the force of whatever was happening underground. The air filled with ash and heat, thick enough to sting the eyes. I could barely see, barely breathe. "Keep moving," I shouted. I can't see. Don't stop." A tree ahead of us groaned, then snapped, falling across the road with a deafening crack. Cartwright screamed as it hit, sending a wave of heat and embers rolling toward us. I pulled her back just in time. "Over it," I yelled. We scrambled, climbing over the burning trunk, heat searing through our clothes. The bark crumbled under our hands, glowing white-hot in places where the fire had already taken hold. Cartwright slipped. I grabbed her, pulled her up. Behind us, the ground split open. Not a crack this time, a tear. Something pale pushed up through the soil, thick, wet, and moving. Cartwright turned just as it broke the surface. Her scream cut through the roar of the fire. "What is that?" I didn't answer, because I couldn't. The thing rising from the ground wasn't a single structure. It was a mass, thousands of threads, no, millions, woven together into something larger, something denser, something organized. It didn't look like a creature, not in any normal sense. It looked like a system, and it was coming up. "Move," I shouted again, dragging Cartwright forward. The thing behind us continued to rise, pushing earth aside, tearing roots free as it forced its way toward the surface. The fire clung to it, burning parts of it away, but not enough. Not nearly enough. "It's too big," Cartwright said, her voice hollow. "It's too big." I know. The ground shook again, hard enough to knock us both off balance. We hit the dirt, rolled. For a second, I thought that was it. Then I felt her hand on my arm. "Get up," she said. I did, pulled her with me, and we ran. The edge of the village came into view through the smoke. Buildings half obscured, shapes moving in the haze. Not people. Not anymore. The threads had reached here fully now, running along walls, through windows, across doorways, connecting everything, every structure, every surface. Cartwright slowed. No, it's already here." "It was always here," I said. A figure stepped into the road ahead, Mrs. Kershaw, or what was left of her. Her movements were smoother now, more stable, more deliberate. She tilted her head as we approached, watching. Then, she stepped aside. Cartwright blinked. "What?" "They're letting us through," I said. "Why?" I didn't answer, because I already knew. We weren't escaping, we were being guided. The sound of the helicopters returned, louder now, lower. I looked up. Another wave of canisters dropped. Closer, too close. "Get down!" I shouted. The explosion hit just behind us. White fire surged across the ground, clinging to everything it touched. The heat was instant, overwhelming. Cartwright screamed as the edge of it caught her sleeve. I tore the fabric away before it could spread. "Keep moving," I said. We pushed forward again, stumbling through smoke and ash. The ground beneath the village shifted. Not just the road, everything. Buildings creaked, walls cracked, windows shattered. The system beneath us, the thing, was rising. Cartwright stumbled again. This time, she didn't get up straight away. "Eleanor," she said weakly. I turned and saw it. Her arm, the sleeve we'd torn, the skin beneath, a thin white line, moving. "No," I said. She followed my gaze, saw it. For a second, she didn't react. Then, "Oh God, it's just the surface," she said quickly. It's not inside yet." I didn't say anything because we both knew it didn't need to be. She looked at me, really looked. "You knew," she said. I hesitated. "Yes." Her expression shifted, not anger, not fear, understanding. "Then we don't have time," she said. "No." She nodded. "Once. Then we keep moving." Behind us, the ground finally broke. Fully. The structure beneath Blackmire Wood erupted upward in a slow, massive surge. Not fast, not violent, just inevitable. The forest collapsed inward as the system beneath it rose, tearing everything apart in its path. The fire spread across it, burning sections away, but it didn't stop. It kept rising, reaching, expanding. Cartwright grabbed my arm again. "Eleanor, look." I turned and saw it, the shape. Not a creature, not a form, but something vast, something that extended far beyond what we could see. Because what we were looking at was just the surface. And as it rose, I realized something that made everything worse. This wasn't just reacting to the fire, it was responding, learning, and now it was fully awake. I honestly thought making it out of Mauden Fell meant we survived, that whatever we'd seen, whatever we'd run from, would stay there, contained, buried under ash in official reports and whatever story they decided to feed the public, that if we just got far enough away, it would end. It didn't. We never saw the edge of the village. Not properly. Not in the way I remember it before all this. Because by the time we reached the last stretch of road, the one that should have led out into open fields, everything behind us had already begun to collapse. The ground gave way. Not under us. Behind us. Cartwright turned just as it happened. The earth where Blackmire Wood had been, where the mine sat, where the trees once stood, folded inward like something beneath it had pulled the entire structure down into itself. The fire followed, white flames cascading into the rupture, vanishing into the darkness below as if swallowed. The air roared, and for a second, just a second, everything went quiet. Then the sound came, not from above, not from around us, from below, a low, endless vibration. Cartwright grabbed my arm. "What is that?" I didn't answer, because I knew it wasn't collapsing, it was settling. We didn't stop running, didn't look back again. Not after that. The road stretched ahead, open, clear, too clear. The helicopters were gone. The fire behind us dimmed. And for the first time since it started, the world felt normal. Cartwright slowed, her breathing ragged, uneven. "Is it over?" she asked. I wanted to say yes, I really did. But something in my chest, something that hadn't stopped tightening since we entered the forest, told me that would be a lie. "No," I said. She didn't argue. We were picked up 20 minutes later, not by the police, not by local emergency services, by people who didn't ask questions. They arrived in unmarked vehicles, wearing clean uniforms, speaking in calm, controlled tones that didn't match what we'd just come through. They didn't look at the forest, not once. They looked at us. "Names," one of them said. We gave them. "Any injuries?" Cartwright hesitated. I answered, "Minor." He nodded, didn't ask to see. "Follow us." They took us to a facility I won't name, not because I'm trying to be dramatic, because I genuinely don't know where it was. We were processed, cleaned, monitored. No one mentioned Mauden Fell. No one mentioned the fire. No one mentioned what we saw. For 48 hours, we sat in a sealed room, waiting. Cartwright didn't speak much, neither did I. because there was nothing left to say. On the third day, they told us it was over. Wildfire, they said. Contained incident. No evidence of contamination beyond the site. Cartwright laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was the only response she had left. They released us separately, different times, different exits. I didn't see her again. Not properly. I tried to go back to normal. You'd think something like that would change everything, make the world feel different. But that's not how it works. Everything looks the same. The roads, the buildings, the people. It's just you that's different. I moved to Leeds, small flat, 3rd floor, nothing special, no woods, no silence, no places where something could hide. That was the idea anyway. For a while, it worked. The noise helped. Traffic, voices, the constant hum of life. It made it easier to pretend none of it had happened. Until the night I heard it. It was late, past midnight. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying not to think about roots pushing through soil or voices coming from places they shouldn't. And then, a sound. Soft, faint, from beneath me. At first, I thought it was pipes, old building, heating system. But then it came again, a slow, dragging sound, followed by something else, a voice, very quiet, barely there. Eleanor. I froze, didn't move, didn't breathe, because I knew that voice. Not from before, from the mind, from the forest. Don't open it. My heart started to race. There was nothing to open. Just floorboards, solid, still. I sat up slowly. The room was silent, no movement, no shadows, nothing. Then another sound, closer this time. Directly beneath the bed, a faint tapping, 3 slow knocks. I swung my legs over the side, and for a moment, everything seemed fine, like nothing would happen. Then the voice came again, clearer now, stronger. Eleanor, I looked down, at the floor, and that's when I saw it, a thin white line, running along the seam between 2 boards. So fine I might have missed it, if it hadn't moved, slowly, deliberately, sliding outward. I didn't move, couldn't, because I understood something in that moment, something I should have realized much earlier. We didn't escape it, we never did. It just needed time to learn, time to connect, time to find its way back. The tapping came again, 3 knocks. Then, very softly, the voice whispered one last thing. Don't open the sea. And beneath my floor, something shifted. Awake, listening, waiting. If you enjoy true scary stories, unsettling horror storytelling, and never before heard disturbing encounters that make you check your locks at night, this one will stay with you long after it ends. The tension builds slowly, dragging you deeper into a nightmare that feels all too real, especially when you realize it might not be over. So ask yourself, if something started calling to you from the dark, would you answer? Hit like if you found this story terrifying and want more creepy, spine-chilling horror content. What do you think is really beneath the forest? Share your theories in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss truly terrifying horror stories and unsolved mysteries that will keep you up at night.